Welcome back to Cheddar News, everyone. Housing prices are surging, and they have been throughout the past year. Many experts say ongoing supply chain issues and overregulation are to blame. On top of higher housing prices, mortgage rates are also on the rise. Mortgage loan company Freddie Mac recently reporting 30-year mortgages now average 3.1%, up from 2.77% just last week. And here now to break all of this down and offer some advice for potential home buyers and sellers, Managing Director of SitusAMC, that's Tim Rood. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. What does the information that we got today about home sales in October say about really what we're experiencing in the housing market, this climate right now?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, look, there's clearly no end in sight for the bull market in housing. You saw October was even better than September, which is generally not the case just from a seasonal perspective. It's off a little bit from last year, but you're setting a pace right now. 2021 is setting up to be, in terms of aggregate sales, as good, if not better, than the last record, which was 2006. So there's no doubt that home price appreciation has been through the roof. But fortunately, because of low interest rates and because of a robust labor market, real incomes going up, it still seems to be pretty durable, and there's just no getting around the whole supply-demand mismatch. You're at near record low supply, and going into the end of the year, it's going to continue to go down. So you're going to start 2020 really with a record low inventory levels while you're still having all of this pent-up demand.
And if I'm not mistaken, Tim, you've pointed to some overregulation and also these supply chain issues as the reason for this environment that we're in, the higher prices. Wondering if you could expand upon that just a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. Look, the government certainly has a role in this. If you think back, it's about basically, I think it's 2000, again, using that 2006 sort of an analogy, the cost to originate a mortgage used to be about $2,500. When I was at Fannie Mae, that was kind of the number, and we were working hard to drive it down from there. Now you pivot to 2021, and the cost to originate is closer to about $8,500. I use the analogy that it takes less labor to manufacture an F-150. I think actually substantially less labor than it does to actually manufacture a mortgage, which is just laughable. And that works at a cross purpose with the Biden administration's objective, which is, look, we've got to democratize access to housing, democratize access to mortgages. We've got to make mortgages more affordable. Well, the reason that you have all of these extra costs, this extra $6,000, is because of a consequence of the great financial crisis. The government came down super hard on banks and independent mortgage companies as a result of the defaults. Mortgage companies quickly realized that when they thought they were selling the credit risk to the federal government, it turns out they were kind of renting it, right? Because, I mean, as soon as people defaulted, the government found ways to get these companies to repurchase these things, hit them with tens of billions of dollars worth of fines. So as a consequence of that, the cost to originate has gone up because belts, suspenders, hard hats, mouth guards, all of these things that lenders are trying to do to basically insulate themselves from the federal government's reprisals is expensive. And all of that gets passed on down to the borrowers. So I think what you're referring to is we did a field guide that I can take you through a little bit, which says, look, you have a new administration. We've seen this playbook before during the Obama administration. There's going to be a pilgrimage of real estate companies, mortgage companies coming to DC to plead their case. And it's really not a very intuitive environment for them. So we're trying to give them a guide that says, here's what you're dealing with. Here's how you tell a story. Here's the approach that you should take. And quite frankly, just kind of revealing how complicated this, this matrix organization on steroids really is, which is the federal government.
That being said, what advice would you give to home sellers right now, borrowers, and also mortgage lenders as they navigate through this environment of higher prices when it comes to housing and mortgages?
Well, I think from the lender's perspective, the originators, look, using, again, the Obama administration as the best proxy I have for this reinvigorated enforcement environment, I mean, lenders are waking up in fear of their government, which, by itself is not a victimless crime because, again, it causes them to raise their rates, or it causes them to raise their fees, their prices, whatever, and passing it down to the borrowers. So from a lender perspective, they got to come to DC and they've got to plead their case, but their case has got to be on enlightened self-interest. Nobody wants to hear in DC the belly aching from lenders or real estate companies that they can't make any money. They've got to be in there talking about how these concerns, these issues that they're having affect real people in real places and ultimately stymie the housing policy objectives of the administration. As far as sellers, I think you're going to see a bumper crop next year where you're expecting to see, while you're going to start off 2022 with really anemic supply, it's inevitable that you're going to see, a lot more inventory come to market, because if you have 20% appreciation last year or coming into this year, on top of 15% before that, 10% before that, it's inevitable that you're going to get sellers who are going to want to take some money off the table after they're seeing, their neighbors sell their property that was, less desirable than theirs for whatever reason, for more than they could have ever imagined. I think borrowers, unfortunately, and buyers are just going to have to wait it out, because you just got to be in it to win it. Renting is no picnic either. You're seeing, single family rent prices go up 10, 15% in terms of that. So there's nowhere to go. And since people have a bias towards living indoor, you're just going to have to do your best to get in at the, at a good price. And you're seeing people now getting away from the Sun Belts, Arizona, Florida, and they're looking for more affordable pastures, things like Indianapolis, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Columbus, Ohio. I think that's just the inevitable. They're going to drive until they can comply, until they can afford something.
Yeah, and you mentioned the waiting game at hand for a lot of the buyers here. Do you think that means that these housing and mortgage prices aren't going down anytime soon?
I just don't see how they could. I mean, look, interest rates are forecasted to go up maybe 0.5%. You talked about how rates have gone from 2.7% to 3.1%. People are clutching their pearls and thinking, I mean, give me a break. These are still darn near the lowest rates we've ever seen. And even if rates go up 0.5%, according to by the median home prices, which are waffling between $350,000 to $375,000, that amounts to, wait for it, $100 a month. I mean, that's not the worst cautionary tale. So there's still plenty of room for the home price appreciation. You're going to see it moderate. They won't crash because there's just so much equity in these properties. It's unlike, the last financial crisis, which was based on, fraud, speculation, and, financial engineering. This one is completely different. It's really based on fundamentals. So I don't see it changing anytime soon.
All right, Tim Rood, Managing Director of SitusAMC. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Lots of good insight there. And coming up soon.